Hello everyone, this is Simon McQuoid, director of Mortal Kombat. I'm going to step you through the trailer, give you some tidbits and insights in what we did.
First learned about this 7 years ago on a mission in Brazil to capture a wanted fugitive.
So this shot here was a very important shot to me. One of the things that you'll see in the film is that each of the characters get revealed and introduced into the story in a very specific way. So the way I brought these very revered and well-known characters into this was really important to me, and it was all about the respect of the characters and the material. So this shot here is about seeing Sub-Zero in a way that is sort of sudden and scary that's appropriate for his. He's the sort of villain version of Sub-Zero. He's the sort of classic sort of Bi-Han-inspired version of Sub-Zero here. So this shot here and this scene is really about kind of experiencing him for the first time, as Jax does as well.
When we got there, it tore through our unit in seconds.
So I know in a few different iterations of Mortal Kombat, Ermac has taken Jax's arms in the past, but it's been slightly different across the board in a few different iterations. So in this film, we needed to drive a few certain characters and narratives. And so we felt that we could, given it had been done a couple of different ways in the past, we felt we had a bit of license to do that again here. We've really tried to be very truthful and true to the canon of Mortal Kombat where we can be, but every now and again we might deviate slightly. Where we felt that it was okay to do so, and kind of where there's been precedent, we tried to do that.
The target had superhuman abilities. It had the same marking you do, Cole.
So here we meet, this is Cole Young, the new character. And really Cole's there, again, a bit like the precedent. We felt it was okay to bring in a new character, given that Mortal Kombat has over the years sort of introduced new characters quite a bit. It's not something, it's not like it's ever just stuck to the same classic set. Obviously, we're using the same classic set with the addition of Kung Lao in this one, who wasn't in the original movie. But we felt there was a bit of precedent there with introducing new characters. And we just really needed to, as Cole learns, the audience learns. And it just helps us bring in those sort of fresh set of eyes. So
it's a birthmark.
What do you mean?
He was born with it.
It's not a birthmark, Cole. It means you've been chosen.
It's a couple of real sort of key ingredients to Mortal Kombat that I felt were really important ingredients. One, there was this sort of brutality, pardon the pun, I know it gets used in the game, but there's a sort of a brutal quality to it. There's also a great levity that runs through it. Comedy and humor is a very potent ingredient, and if you use too much of it, it actually bends the wrong way. And my job, I felt, was to balance these really key ingredients that the Mortal Kombat game has handled and created so well. It's actually balanced really kind of sort of serious world building and canon and very serious sort of elements with very comedic elements, with also this sort of layer of brutality and violence that runs through the middle. So tonally, I wanted everything to have this authentic, brutal, real quality. So one of the things that really matters to me in creating a world and a story is to make people believe. And I wanted the Mortal Kombat fans and new audiences alike to come in and believe this world.
Throughout history, different cultures all over the world.
This is our first intro into Outworld here. And again, I wanted to bring a realism and an authenticity and a non-VFX feel to these unreal worlds. We shot this in a disused coal mine in the middle of Australia. And that is pretty much in camera. That is what it looks like. And that was a pretty incredible location. So the locations we used and the places we found, I really wanted it to feel as in camera as possible. And we just really enhanced what was there.
Reference a great tournament of champions that that dragon marking?
So this piece here that we're going to go through now is the, I think everyone's talked about this. So this is the opening of the film where we set up the rivalry between Hanzo and Bihan and the Shiroryu and the Lin Kuei and what their rivalry is all about. What I wanted to do was literally show Scorpion being born and the ingredients in how he comes about. So what you see there is and it gets explained more when you see the whole story in the film, but it's really about seeing his evolution on the screen and the ingredients, both emotional and physical, as to why he becomes Scorpion. And so that sort of is explained across the opening of our film. It's a pretty brutal, nasty fight that happens in the opening of the film, and it goes for a fair while. So I'm sure you'll enjoy that.
I think it's an invitation to fight for something known. As Mortal Kombat.
These are your champions.
I'm Sonya. That's Kano.
Kano is Josh Lawson, who plays Kano, is a very, very funny man. Kano provides us with a great deal of levity, a great deal of humor through the film. A lot of improv from Josh. He's a very gifted improv comedian, and you'll feel and see that. And so really, as I was talking about before, the balance of comedy and drama and violence. Josh did a number of things. You know, Kano provides the comedy, and there's a great rivalry that tracks through the whole story between Kano and Sonya. So you'll see that, and that's kind of what's being set up here in the trailer. You just sort of get a little sense of that in that desert fight they have.
I'm Liu Kang.
Name's Jax.
Kung Lao. Lord Raiden. The fate of Earth is in our hands.
It's hard to actually talk about these things as they skim by because each of them is so dense and rich, and sort of each character is so important. A lot of the costumes, we spent a lot of time in R&D and designing these costumes so that they felt very true to, they felt like a very real and considered and well-crafted version of the characters. And sometimes, like Kung Lao's hat, for instance, was a very tricky one to pull off because it was very important to me that his hat looked exactly like it should. And there's been a few different iterations of his hat, obviously, but you know, it sort of, we went through about 20 different prototypes to get to that hat because it actually, some things you do and you think when they're in a video game, you can sort of get away with stuff. But when it's in reality, some of them look a bit silly. Some of them just were too heavy. Some of them didn't sit right. And it was a really complex process getting a lot of these costumes right. Here's Scorpion here. Probably the first version of the first time people will sort of see Scorpion in his full regalia there. Very inspired by Japanese history. Hiroyuki Sanada was really incredibly helpful in getting the Japanese history right on this character. We really wanted to be very true to his heritage and make it feel very genuine. And that's really why it was sort of born out of this touch of sort of samurai about it.
No matter how many of my people you put in the ground, we will not fail. Kill them.
And there is our friend Goro. I can't really say much about what he does in the movie, but all I can say is he's in the movie and he's pretty impressive. So I'm very happy with the way he was another tricky design process because he, four arms doesn't always look great. It's anatomically kind of goofy. So we had to go through a lot of iterations to get the sort of the power and the physique in him and not send it into a sort of comedic place. The guys at Method, the VFX company who created Goro, have done an amazing job. Joe Taslim did an amazing job. I mean, he represented Indonesia for judo. So the guy is he's an athlete, and he shows it. And the presence he brought to that character was just extraordinary.
Get over here!
And obviously that's a fairly iconic shot there, and an iconic bit of dialogue from Scorpion. And really it was, some of the things that are in the game, like Get Over Here, which obviously had to be in the movie, it was a real interesting balance between lines that in reality sort of seem a bit odd and might not make sense. And there was quite a big process in working out how to balance those ingredients together. And my feeling was, as long as we've got an integrity and a respect for the characters, then I feel like when you do hear Get Over Here and you do hear these other things that the other characters say, then you sort of feel like it's coming from an authentically realized place. And then it sort of sits okay within the tone across the board. So the fatalities were always in from the get-go. There was never any question from anyone at all. There was no resistance from the studio. They wanted them. I wanted them. Yeah, there's certainly restrictions on what you can do, and some of the restrictions are sort of strange and surprising, and some of them are kind of obvious. But we wanted to push it to the limit, and so yeah, there's a fatality here from Kano. He rips someone's heart out. But what was important to me was that even when the fatalities arrived, we couldn't just do a fatality and have it mean nothing. Well, we could have done that, and that still probably would have been good. But what I was trying to do was each time there is a fatality, or it's part of a bigger scene and a bigger narrative, so that there's perhaps a more emotion to it, or there's more power to it. So we use them not just to show, we've done a fatality, but it actually becomes a sort of important ingredient in the rhythm of the action scene. We don't give ourselves the rating. Someone else looks at it and gives the rating. So, it's not for us to determine, but there's certainly a set of rules. And Bennett Walsh, who's the producer on the film, he did Kill Bill and has a lot of experience with blood. And so he was really helpful in sort of navigating what's right, what's appropriate, and what the rules are around it. And yeah, it wasn't that big a deal, really. It was like, well, we knew where they were going in, and which ones will they be, and when do they occur? And they're in there, and they're gory, so you'll love them.
You fucking beauty.